It's now my pleasure to begin a very felicitous part of this ceremony, which is to honor several, we have today 3 distinguished patriots who have rendered extraordinary service to the United States. The first whom I would like to introduce is my longtime colleague, Ken deGraffenreid. Ken taught at IWP for 22 years. He is now Professor Emeritus and is affectionately known to his students as deGraff. He has over 40 years of leadership in intelligence, counterintelligence, and national security. Ken began his service to our country as a naval aviator and intelligence officer, rising to the rank of captain. In the 1970s, he served on the Senate Intelligence Committee staff, where he fought efforts to neuter our country's intelligence capabilities. I met Ken when he was Senior Director of Intelligence and Security Programs in the Reagan White House in the National Security Council, where he served for 8 years. He went on to direct special secret programs in the Defense Department. Under President George W. Bush, he held what was then the highest intelligence policy position in the Pentagon, Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. Then he held the second highest counterintelligence position in the government, Deputy National Counterintelligence Executive, where he co-authored the first National Counterintelligence Strategy. Knowing about our counterintelligence weaknesses, the depth of hostile intelligence threats, and the cultural aversion to counterintelligence within parts of our government, Ken did more than anyone else to raise consciousness and bring about reform in that critical element of statecraft. Ken hired the first counterintelligence director in the National Security Council staff in several decades. He spearheaded the first modern efforts to pay serious, systematic attention to strategic deception. He clarified intelligence doctrine to include clear delineations between threat-based and opportunities-based intelligence, and between tactical and strategic counterintelligence. Ken is one of the greatest intelligence reformers of the modern age, and his service has altered the course of history. Ken is also, on top of all of this, he is one of the few true pioneers in the academic study of intelligence. He knew that America's weaknesses in these fields were due heavily to a serious lack of study. When we started this school, I would guess that 99% of intelligence officers serving in our government had never studied the field before actual professional work in it. So, recognizing this, Ken became a key contributor to the path-breaking literature that laid the groundwork for the modern era of intelligence studies and the systematic study of intelligence policy. Despite all these extraordinary achievements, Ken says that he is proudest of being a plank owner at IWP. He was present at the creation. He was with me as one of the first 3 incorporators of the school, one of our first 4 professors, and one of our first 4 trustees. He's the architect of our master's degree in strategic intelligence, the first such thing offered outside of the U.S. government. He tirelessly taught on intelligence, on foreign influence operations, on information warfare, counterintelligence, and security, and helped place so many of our graduates in key strategic positions. Some of those graduates are in places where they are in a position to help you new graduates in the network of IWP alums throughout the government. Ken is one of the most important reasons for the success of this school. And whether in government or at IWP, he has served with courage, with honor, with conviction, and with selflessness. I am proud to have had him for something like 3 decades as my friend, and it is with profound gratitude that we honor Ken today. Ken and John and Jack.
Let's come to this.
Jack, you can do this here.
What should I do? Okay.
Now, we hook this onto the button over here.
All right.
I got a button. You got a button, you can hook it on.
Careful. It's going to be long now.
Too tight. Here we go. Hold this here, and Ken, I'm going to stand behind you guys.
That's better than in front, given our size differential.
Come back over here. You want to take the podium for a minute?
Yeah, just for a minute.
Thank you.
Actually, 3. I think it's 3 minutes. John, thank you. Dean Tierney, and one of my first teachers in the graduate world. Thank you, the faculty. John, thank you, and Chairman Owen Smith and the Board of Trustees for this honor, and particularly for allowing me to share this day with 2 truly great American statesmen, General Rowney and Bud McFarlane. I'm humbled to be on this platform with them. They are truly heroes to which our country owes a great deal. I have 3 minutes. My students and former students will be somewhat skeptical that I can get 3 points out in 3 minutes, but I'm going to give it a shot. First of all, Thanksgiving for the joyful moments of learning that have shaped my life from a host of good, wise, and learned teachers, professors, and I'll mention a few of them. James Dornan, my late mentor, Professor Jack Tierney, Professor Abe Shulsky, Professor Carrie Lord, Professor Sven Kramer, Professor Jack Ziak, the late Herb Romerstein, who was also a teacher here, John Wobensmith, and former Dean Chuck Smith, to name just a few. And thank you all, and particularly John, for having gathered that host of wise, good, and learned professors at this school. It's a remarkable achievement. Second, as a person of faith, I am more and more have come to understand that in all things, even bad ones, the Lord works for good. And I'll give you an example, if you'll permit me a personal note. In 1979, I had completed all my coursework and comprehensive exams for the PhD at Catholic University when a tragic accident took the life of my mentor and friend of many of us, Professor James E. Dornan, Jr. Regretfully and somewhat ashamedly, I used my grief at that loss as a weak excuse for not rising above it and writing my dissertation. Blessedly, however, this failure on my part turned into what has become a powerful reminder and motivation of what Jim Dornan had taught me and these other people I have spoken of, and what he expected of me. Seldom a day goes by that I am not measuring myself against what I believe he would have wanted me to do. Today, however, with the help of the wonderful Earhart Foundation, I've been given a second chance. And I am working to produce a worthy offering as I work on a book on the Reagan administration's policies on intelligence and security. And I hope that when that is complete, it will indeed be a worthy offering. And in this effort, I have been doubly blessed to just help me along with another good, wise, and learned teacher, my wonderful wife, Carol, who provides 24-hour-a-day encouragement and structure, if I might call it that, and motivation. And my third point, to my fellow students and graduates of the art and science of statecraft. We live today in a very challenging world, and in many ways, a far less, I mentioned joy earlier, far less joyful world than when I was growing up and having these experiences. This world that you face is made far more difficult by a number of factors, but two of which I will mention. The twin evils of politicization and of bureaucratization, which threaten to rob us of the essential lifeblood of our constitutional democracy that John was speaking of, namely civic virtue. In your careers that you now embark on or have embarked on, the hucksters of these two deceptions will at critical times make you offers you can't refuse. And this is likely to happen, if history is a guide, more than once to you. With all my heart, mind, and soul, I ask that you reject these false offers, both for your own good and for the good of our country. To help you, I offer one single, albeit not easy, device. Always tell the truth. Always tell the truth. It will armor you, it will get the job done, and it's the right thing to do. In that regard, as you know, my last name is a long one. It is also an old one, and it's so old that it comes with a 700-year-old motto. In Latin, it's fac recte niminem time, which roughly means do right and fear not for it. And so today I would offer you for free the use of that motto as you work your way through your careers. Do right and fear not for it. Get on with the high and vital work of defending and advancing the constitutional ordered liberty which is essential to our country and to our civilization. And to all of you, Godspeed in your efforts.